Have you ever really stopped to think about that undeniable feeling of you? You know, that solid, unchanging I that seems to be right there at the core of your being.
Hmm.
It's something we all experience, I think. It's deeply ingrained and it just feels so real.
Absolutely. It's fundamental to how we usually operate.
But what if?
Hmm.
What if that deepest intuition we have about our identity is actually, well, a profound illusion?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, so today we're embarking on a deep dive into anatta, or non-self. It's a concept that radically challenges these deeply held beliefs about who we are.
It really does.
It's a foundational insight in Buddhist philosophy, and often people say it's its most distinguishing teaching.
And what's truly revolutionary about Anatta is this understanding that there isn't a permanent, unchanging, sort of independent self or soul that just sails through all our experiences.
Right.
Now, I know it might sound unsettling at first glance, maybe even a little threatening,
Yeah, it can feel that way.
but the Buddha presented this not as some kind of, grim truth, but actually as the most liberating realization imaginable.
Liberating. Okay, so our mission today is to really try and unpack this. It's challenging, no doubt, but potentially, as you say, freeing.
Exactly.
We'll explore how seeing through this illusion, this idea of a fixed self, might help us unravel the very root of all our attachment and, consequently suffering. Let's really dig into this.
Okay, so to truly grasp Anatta, the Buddha didn't just kind of state no self and leave it there.
Yeah.
He offered a really brilliant analytical framework.
Okay.
He broke down what we typically mistake for this permanent self into 5 dynamic components. They're known as the 5 aggregates, or Skandhas in Sanskrit.
The 5 aggregates. Okay, so what are those components and why is identifying them so crucial to understanding non-self?
Well, essentially, he described our entire mind and body system. So first, there's our physical form, the body itself.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward.
The physical stuff.
Then, feeling. And this isn't emotion exactly, but more the raw sense of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral that comes with any experience.
Ah, okay. The immediate tone.
Exactly. Next is perception. This is how we identify things, how we recognize and label and make sense of the world around us. Tree, chair, sound, whatever.
Making distinctions.
Precisely. After that, mental formations. Now, this is a big one. It includes all our intentions, our volitions, habits, biases, all those mental states like determination or anger or concentration.
So like the active mental stuff.
Yeah, the constructing part of the mind, you could say. And finally, there's consciousness, just the basic faculty of awareness itself, knowing that there's seeing, hearing, thinking happening.
Okay, so form, feeling, perception, mental formations, consciousness.
5. Those are the 5. And the absolutely crucial point here isn't just naming them, but realizing that none of them, not individually and not even altogether, constitute a fixed, permanent I. They're all changing processes.
Right. So if the self isn't found within any of these aggregates, or even in the sum of them, does that mean it's just, I don't know, emptiness? Or is there still some kind of actor behind our actions? How did the Buddha sort of reconcile that apparent paradox?
Yeah. This is where the teaching gets really, really profound. The Buddha famously used the chariot analogy. You've probably heard it.
Vaguely, yeah. Remind me.
So a chariot is made of many parts, right? You got wheels, an axle, a frame, a pole.
Mm-hmm.
We call the whole thing a chariot. But is the chariot any single one of those parts? Is it the wheel? The axle? No.
No, of course not.
And if you take away all the parts piece by piece, does the concept of chariot still exist there? It vanishes. It's simply a name, a convention we give to this collection of interdependent components functioning together.
Okay. And the self is like that chariot.
Exactly like the chariot.
We have a body form. We have feelings, perceptions, mental formations, consciousness, all these parts, these aggregates. We give this collection the name I, or self. But if we meticulously search for some permanent singular entity called I within these ever-changing parts...
You just can't find it.
Yeah.
It's not there as a solid thing. The self isn't some concrete reality hiding in the machine.
Wow.
It's a conceptual label we apply to the functioning whole. A useful convention for everyday life, absolutely, but not an ultimate reality.
Right.
Exactly. And this isn't, importantly, a denial of our existence. It's not an argument for nihilism, like nothing matters. We exist, we function perfectly well.
We're clearly having this conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we exist and function without needing a central unchanging essence. We are a dynamic process, an ever-changing flow of these aggregates, not some static, solid entity that needs constant defending and propping up.
Okay, I can see that. But I can also imagine some listeners hearing no self and feeling like, well, isn't my individuality being erased? Doesn't that mean I just don't exist? How does Anatta really differentiate from simple non-existence? And crucially, where does the liberation part you mentioned earlier come in?
That's a really vital question and a common sticking point. Anatta isn't saying you don't exist. It's saying you don't exist in the fixed, independent, permanent way you instinctively think you do.
Ah, okay. It's the mode of existence that's being questioned.
Precisely. The liberation stems from understanding that most, if not all, of our deep-seated suffering arises from clinging and attachment. We cling to things we identify as me or mine, my body, my feelings, my opinions, my possessions, my reputation, my
And
relationship.
one of the things we try to hold on to.
Yeah. And this deep-seated fear of losing these things, and the very real pain when that inevitable loss or change occurs. It's immense. It drives so much anxiety and struggle.
Yep.
But what if that relentless pressure to be a fixed self, to constantly defend that self, and to acquire things for it, is actually rooted in clinging to something that isn't fundamentally real in the way we assume? What if it's entirely self-created pressure based on a misunderstanding?
So when we stop clinging to this idea of a fixed me that has to possess and defend everything associated with it,
Then the very foundation of that fear, that possessiveness, that sense of potential loss, it begins to crumble.
it's not about denying reality, the body is here, feelings happen, but maybe seeing it without that constant anxious filter of mind.
That's exactly. If there's no permanent, solid self-entity to truly own things in an absolute sense, then who ultimately is there to truly lose them? The fear and the pain, while still experienced perhaps, lose their ultimate inherent foundation. They become less solid, less defining.
Their power diminishes.
Precisely. It's this profound understanding, this insight, that these five aggregates are happening. They constitute our experience, but they are not ultimately me or mine.
Yeah.
Realizing that is what allows us to truly release our attachment at the deepest level.
Okay.
It frees us from this exhausting, lifelong struggle of trying to protect and control an entity, this self, that, upon investigation, never truly existed in that fixed way in the first place.
And you mentioned earlier, this isn't just something to believe, right? It's not merely an intellectual concept to accept.
Oh, absolutely not. That wouldn't be very liberating on its own.
Yeah.
It's an insight to be realized. It has to be seen directly through direct experience and practice.
How does that work in practice? Like meditation?
Yes, exactly. Through practices like mindfulness meditation, for instance, you train the mind to observe experience directly without immediately overlaying the me and mine story.
Okay.
So you could directly observe your thoughts arising and passing as just thoughts, your feelings coming and going as just feelings, sensations in the body as just the body doing its thing.
Without grabbing onto them as my thoughts, my pain.
Exactly. You witness them arise and pass away, often quite quickly, without needing a permanent self controlling them or owning them. This direct, sustained observation begins to dissolve the illusion of a separate, unchanging self. It's maybe like watching clouds drift across the sky. The clouds are there, they change form, they appear and disappear, but they don't define the essential nature of the sky itself.
That's a helpful image. Okay, so let's try to briefly summarize what we've dug into here. The core idea of Anatta is that the self, this I we feel so strongly, isn't a permanent, concrete reality.
Right.
It's more like a conceptual label, a name we give to a dynamic, constantly changing process, this flow of the five aggregates.
Form, feeling, perception, mental formations, consciousness. Always in flux.
And the implication is, if there's no permanent self-entity to fundamentally own things,
Then there's no fixed who to ultimately lose them.
and because of that, fear and pain, especially related to loss and change, begin to lose their grip, their power over us.
Exactly. And that's the path to liberation. That understanding, seeing directly that the five aggregates are impermanent, often unsatisfactory in the sense that they can't provide lasting security and fundamentally not me or mine, that's what allows us to release the very root of attachment.
Mm-hmm.
So the really provocative question Anatta poses is this: what if this constant struggle we engage in, trying to protect and control this entity we perceive as myself, is actually rooted in defending something that never truly existed in that solid, independent way in the first place?
Wow. Yeah. And answering that question, not just thinking about it, but seeing it experientially through practice like mindfulness, that's where the real transformation lies.
That's the heart of it.
It really positions Anatta as, well, you could say the final jewel in the crown of the Buddha's wisdom, couldn't you? Offering this ultimate freedom from suffering by cutting that root of all attachment, the belief in a fixed self.
A powerful way to put it, yes.
So maybe something for you, the listener, to consider as you go about your day. If you're perhaps more like a dynamic flow, a constantly changing process rather than a static fixed entity, what possibilities does that open up? How might that change how you experience the world and your place within it? Something to reflect on.